Welcome to the Woodpreneur Podcast, the number one podcast for the business and marketing side of the lumber, woodworking, hardwood flooring, and sawmill industry. I'm your host, Steve from Acres of Timber. Each week, we feature various wood business owners and entrepreneurs from around the globe. We share their stories, paths, insights so that you can network, learn, and grow your own wood business. Thank you so much for listening. Now enjoy the episode. The Woodpreneur Podcast is proudly sponsored by Acres CRM. Acres CRM is the wood industry's only customer relationship management software dedicated to helping you automate your sales and marketing so that you can focus on serving your customers and growing your business. You can visit acresoftimber.com to learn more and to schedule a demo. Once again, that's acresoftimber.com. Hey, this is Steve, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Woodpreneur Podcast. I'm really excited to have Miles Lanier from Tall Pine Outfitters. How you doing, Miles?
I'm doing pretty good. How you doing, Steve?
I'm well. So it seems like you're doing a couple of things in your family business. We connected on Instagram maybe about a year or two ago, but I'd love to learn about the origin of Tall Pine and how you sort of pivoted and sort of added on your lumber operation. So tell us how did Tall Pine get started?
Sure. So me and my brother have a background in landscaping. We were doing landscaping for a while, landscaping installs, maintenance, that sort of thing. Transitioned over and we started our tree service, and we went kind of full-time residential tree service and land clearing, land management. And, first couple years in business, we just produced so much material through the tree service that we kind of became a no-brainer that we needed to vertically integrate and start trying to turn this raw material into something workable that we could bring to market instead of just burning it or, disposing of it.
Can you talk about those first couple of years about starting your tree service company, and what was that like? Like, how did you determine that your area needed another tree service company, and what were the first couple of sort of investments to get it off the ground?
Sure. So initially we were doing a lot of trees in our landscaping and our property management business. And we started looking over the numbers. We wanted to be able to be in our home markets more instead of traveling more. And we wanted to do something that was still going to produce the amount of revenue that we needed to, have the quality of life that we're chasing after. So we started the tree service really with not a whole lot. We started with a pickup truck and a dump trailer and some chainsaws. And we started doing jobs and just bootstrapping it, building up the capital, saving everything we could and rolling everything back into the business. And we started out with some smaller equipment for the tree service. And, we got a material mover, mini skid steer, stump grinder, and an aerial lift, and just hit the ground running, working every day, producing material every day. And then kind of from there, it turned into, we got a 5-acre lumber yard that's filling up with logs, and we got to figure out how to get them cut. So one thing led to the other.
Were you chipping them up front, or were you just saving logs?
So we started saving a lot, but the way it works here in Florida where we're at, you can haul to the dump and you can dump it there, and then they take it, they mulch it all down, they sell it, the mulch, back to our power company. And then our power company here uses it to make electricity for us. So a lot of it was just going to the landfills at first. And, me and my brother, we grew up, our dad built custom homes. So we kind of had a background in seeing lumber used for a lot of different things. And it doesn't take much.
So it was a no-brainer. It was a no-brainer. You're like, oh my God.
How much material you have in front of you that you're not utilizing. And, you got to make the moves to start turning that into workable material.
How did you get the word out about your business, about the Tall Pine, the tree company?
Some lead generation, just, knocking on doors, just getting out there and spreading the word and talking to as many people as we can and letting them know what we offer, doing a good job every single time and letting that word of mouth build. We've got close to 100 5-star reviews now for the tree service, and the lumber company is kind of taken off on the back of that,
That's so cool. And was there a lot of competition, or how did you deal with competition in your area?
There's a ton of competition. A lot of the guys seem to just race to the bottom. So our first step was kind of getting out of that race. We're not racing to try to give people the lowest prices possible and barely stay in business. We're doing this to turn a profit, and we're doing this to be able to hold ourselves to a good standard of work and do a good quality of work for people, give them a good finished product. That's really how we set ourselves apart from the heavy competition that we have. They know they can come to us. They're going to get a good, thorough job. We're going to do right by them. We're going to do right by their trees. And then us adding the lumber operation to where we could turn their trees into material for them also helps a lot to differentiate us between your other average tree services.
What do people underestimate when you start a tree service company? Like, what's the thing that you wish that you knew when you first started?
Realistically, the amount of equipment you're going to need. I mean, we figured on the light side. Originally, we were going to go into residential tree care more so than the logging. And as things evolved and we started coming into the material, we realized we were going to have to revamp and go a lot heavier duty on our equipment to be able to support the kind of work we were kind of evolving into doing.
How did you finance those? Was that just straight cash, or you take out loans?
We used a lot of savings, and pretty much everything we've done cash. We don't carry any debt in either operation, really.
Mm-hmm. And then how big did you, how big are you guys right now? How big is your crew?
It's just the three of us.
Wow. You, your brother, and your dad.
Yes, sir. My brother and I, we run the tree service Monday through Friday, day-to-day operations. And our dad, he's the sawyer. He takes care of most of the sawing. We've got a Woodmiser LT40 super hydraulic, and that's it. He runs that every day, puts out a lot of really good quality lumber. And then we've got a Lucas dedicated slabber that my brother and I run on the days that we're not out cutting trees and running that side of things.
What kind of species do you have in that part of the world? So you said you're in between Jacksonville, Gainesville, and Orlando, like north. What's your dominant species down there?
Dominant species is going to be pine and oak, red oak, a lot of different subspecies. But what we try to focus on, we like hickory, oak, maple, cherry, cedar, cypress. We've got a bunch of different types of red oak down here. A little bit of
How
white
big
oak.
do they get? How big wide do they get?
We've got some red oak here on the yard that are 50, 60 inches across.
Whoa.
They get pretty big.
Wow. I didn't think about that. In Florida killing it with the big oak trees.
Bigger than most people think. I think a few of the ones down here, there's some record holding oak trees down here in Florida. They get pretty big.
That is pretty impressive. So how many years has the Tall Pines been in business?
We're on year 4 officially for Tall Pine. And then for the lumber company, we're in our first official year of business. We had about 6 to 8 months where we were getting things started up, where we were waiting on paperwork from the state and things like that. So we're probably about a year and a half into the lumber company.
So you created 2 different LLCs or 2 different companies?
We started LLC on Tall Pine, and then we transitioned both over to S Corps once we were able to see that they were
2 separate S Corp? 2 separate S Corps?
2 separate, yes, sir.
And why'd you do that? For liability?
Just to kind of differentiate the businesses. We started having a lot of people that were thinking that we could take down their trees for free in exchange for wood and that sort of thing. And so I kind of wanted
to get those Facebook messages where like, I got a walnut tree. You can have it if you take it out, right?
or down here, it's a lot of pine. So people will have
pine,
and they'll say, hey, I have 60 big pine trees. You can take them down in exchange for the lumber. And they don't realize that these are 2 totally different entities. The tree service has to take your trees. The lumber company cuts your lumber. We can't do it all umbrella, or just the lines get too blurry.
That's really interesting.
Yes,
People have a lot of nerve, don't they?
They think we're out here, they see a log and they think we can get rich off every log.
Well, you're going to make money off this log, so you should get it for free.
That's right. You should bring out your $200,000 in equipment. You should risk it all. You and your brother come
Risk
out
it
here
all.
free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so why is the market there for you to grow the tree service company?
It is. It is. We're going to talk to you about some of that stuff because I think on the digital and the marketing side, there's a lot of room for improvement.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
as far as just pure market, I mean, we've got
It's a growing market, right?
and we've got the longest growing season of any state, really. So we have growth most of the year down here, and we also have hurricanes. So we've got major storms that people have to get ready for all the time when it comes to tree care. So, I mean, there's a lot of room.
True. Yeah, trees go down all the time.
And on the tree service, we specialize in storm recovery. So we travel a lot. We've been all over the country helping after tornadoes and hurricanes and that sort of thing. So there's a very high ceiling in it. Absolutely.
It's so fascinating. Especially because I mean, you've got to think that there's, a lot of trees coming. I mean, that there's a lot of trees coming down all the time. And when a storm comes through, or, like I just had some tree trimming done on my house, right? Like it's just annoying, right? Like there's just things that nature's growing all the time. So therefore there's always a need to take care of your trees.
Every time it rains and every time the sun shines, that tree gets a little bit bigger and a little bit closer to stuff you don't want it close to.
Absolutely. So tell me, what was the approach and the strategy for, so it's called Lanier Lumber. Is that what
Yes, sir. Lanier Lumber Company.
What was the strategy behind that? Cause I mean, I know, but like there's different approaches, right? You're going to I'm going to do milling services, or I can do selling raw lumber, or I'm going to make furniture. What did you guys decide that you were going to do?
Right. So we've got a couple of different angles. With our dad having such a background in building, he was really more for dimensional because he knows what he can produce. There was much lower of a learning curve for him to start producing really good quality dimensional lumber. My brother and I have been more focused on the lab side of things because we like turning stuff into finished products. So
you're making tables?
Yes, sir. We're making tables, charcuterie boards. We've got a small CNC also. We've got the Inventables X Carve.
Oh, yeah. What made you get that?
Well, it was just one of those things to where we were starting to produce a lot of good material. We have good wholesale buyers. We've got good hobby woodworkers and people like that buy from us. But there was a lot of stuff that I saw potential in that we could do more with. My wife had a Cricut in the past, and so she had made some different designs and stuff like that. And we sat down and talked about the CNC and decided to move forward with it and get one.
They've got some pretty good plans, and there's like a good community of people with Inventables, right? Like I've seen, you can knock out some really great furniture with that.
Absolutely. It actually first started, one of our customers has one, and he was showing us some of the stuff that he was making with his. And we started discussing getting one of our own to do not necessarily the same thing. He does big signs. They're really intricate. He does great work. We were looking at doing some more smaller stuff. We make some turkey calls and things like that with ours, signs, things like that.
I was thinking about I like to say tree people are like the extreme athletes of the woodpreneur community. Like between the climbing and then just the danger alone, of that. Did you go through any continuing education? Did you further develop yourself, join the tree TCIA? Did you do any of that kind of stuff?
Sure. We're TCIA members. We're big on continuing our education. We're studying to become certified arborists right now, both my brother and I. That's why one of the reasons why we've been able to advance at the speed, that we've been able to, is because we don't take learning lightly. We're always ordering books, reading books, trying to add to what we know about the industry. There's a lot of really good stuff out there. from guys like Jerry Baronic that have been in the industry forever and have put out, the type of content that you can really avoid a lot of training scars with. So we've utilized that. Absolutely.
And so what in terms of your lumber company, the lumber side of things, like what's like break down your main product services, like, so is it selling lumber or more finished stuff?
I would say the majority right now, I would need to look over things to be able to give you percentages and break it down. I'd say the majority right now would be green, rough cut, or milling services. And we're gearing up more we've milled some really big stuff on our Lucas, and we've got it drying and going to be getting surfaced soon. So we're in the process of adding some of the finished stuff. We've got a huge table that'll be going 16 feet long, 44 inches on average across, 4-inch thick pecan that'll be heading up to, we're going to be delivering it and installing it in Nashville.
Is that a book match or is that single slab?
Single slab.
Wow.
Single slab. That'll be going up for a conference table for a production company in Nashville. So we're trying to get into more of the finished stuff, but this first year, it's just been one stage of growth after another. We bought the first mill, we built the barn, bought the second mill, and then we just received our Nova kiln, so we'll be getting that built soon. We're working on another barn for more lumber storage. We got a lot of irons in the fire right now, trying to grow this thing to where we can ramp up production, have the space to store it, and have the facilities to be able to process it to that finished product.
That sounds super exciting, especially to be doing that with family, huh?
We love it. We love it.
That's so cool. What has been the biggest challenge between balancing both the tree and the sawmill?
That's it right there. Just trying to balance them and kind of give equal attention to each entity, because, neither are in that stage where they're on autopilot yet. We're still very active today in the sales, the running, closing everything, getting everything done. There's a lot that goes into that day. So I'd say just the balance between the two and not letting one kind of overtake the other. That's probably the biggest challenge to having them both going, and not have time for our tree schedule. And it's very easy to get too busy tree schedule and not have time for our lumber schedule. So learning to balance those two has been a learning curve.
I was thinking a lot about just where, your air drying doesn't need to stay out for much long, right? Like, because it gets pretty hot, no?
It does. It gets hot. Some pine that we cut only has to air dry for a week or so before going in the kiln. It's especially because we have the space to be able to season logs. We don't have to cut them as soon as they come in. So we sort, we buck, we stack them, and then we season them so we're not cutting a lot of really wet stuff. So by the time we get it cut, stacked, and stickered, it doesn't have to air dry very long before it would be ready.
It's cut and it's kind of like cooking already, basically.
A lot of people that buy from us also are buying, where we live is an agricultural area. So a lot of people that we know are buying for barns, for fencing, for that sort of stuff. So they'll come buy it and pretty much put it up green and not have any problems.
Wow. That's amazing. Because of the climate.
That's it.
That's kind of like a little unfair advantage, right? Like
the only downside to it is, compared to some other areas, we have a lot of bugs and pests. So you can let stuff dry and it happens quicker, but that kiln drying and sterilization process, if you're going to use it inside, becomes extremely important, because how much of that we have down here.
That's really cool. So what's the future hold for you guys? It looks pretty bright, like sunny and bright for you guys down there. What does the future hold? Where do you kind of see yourself? Do you want to grow beyond the family, or do you know what I mean? Like tell me what you're thinking.
Eventually, yes, we'll end up bringing on some help to help, fill some of the gaps around the mill and the tree service. But for the most part, this is kind of how we've made our way as a family business. We had family businesses before this where it was mainly just us. I mean, we bring in subcontractors to help shoulder the load sometimes. In this business, we do that as well sometimes. But for the most part, it's, for the time being, in the foreseeable future, it'll just be us.
Cool. Very cool. So this is a part of the show where I give you any marketing and business advice. Is there any like marketing or business challenges that you'd like to work through?
We're running into a bottleneck on the tree service side when it comes to, I wouldn't say lead generation, but quality lead generation, trying to get it filtered down to people who are ready to get the work done. They know what they want and they're ready to move forward. All they need is us to be able to kind of show them the way on that.
Mm-hmm. So you want to be able to better generate better quality leads.
Correct.
Of people that aren't tire kickers.
Correct.
So let me ask you, what is your current process now? So I got a tree, it needs to come down, it's in my yard. I call you or email. So what happens after that?
So we've got a few different ways you can get a hold of us: through the website, call, text, email. Once someone reaches out to us, if you called us, said, hey, I have this tree, I'll work you into my schedule as soon as possible to get out there, take a look at it, and get you a free quote put together. And then once we get the quote put together, I send that over to you in written form. And as soon as we have a contract, signed contract, we put you on the schedule and we get to you as quickly as possible.
Okay. Okay. And then what are you finding is the challenge? Is that you give them the quote and they say no? Or we get
a lot of calls from people that are I call it collecting estimates. Yeah. So they'll call and they'll tell you, well, I'm getting 4 other estimates. And that's that to the bottom that a lot of these guys will play, because a lot of other local guys will say, hey, what did they quote you at? I'll beat it by 10%. That's the race to the bottom that I mean. And it's a lot of guys out here will put that out there in their sales pitch. We will beat any estimate. And those are the type of calls that I'd like to get less of and get more of the calls where someone says, look, I want a quality job done. You know, I want it done to a certain standard. I've heard about y'all. Y'all are the ones I want to do it. Can you please come out and give me a quote?
Yeah.
I would say right now, probably 1 out of every 5 of our leads is that type of a person.
And then you waste time.
80%, you know,
80% of the time. Yeah.
You got people that, don't get me wrong, out of that 80% of the people collecting estimates, we're still securing jobs out of that. But those are just, from my experiences, those usually aren't the type of customers we want to do the work for.
Yeah. So with that, what I would do is, so like if I put you through the Woodpreneur Method sort of framework, I would look, so it's mindset, branding, community, sales, right? And so one is branding and branding yourself as this family business, right? So like, you know, I was just talking to a guy yesterday, and like we all have our own unique competitive advantage, right? And the idea of a family run business, right, is a very attractive thing. People like to support families. People, I mean, you know this, like being in business, people like to support people more than we think, right? And so I would market the fact that that you're a family run business. Let me just look at locally owned family business. You have that on. I almost feel like you need to put that on your homepage, right? So like directly, so it says Tall Pine Outfitters Tree Service, family run business, serving the, and then you put the area that you serve, right? Like put that like right where that picture is, right? The second thing is about community, is that like you have a lot of reviews, right? So I would I would market your reviews before you um like when people are uh inquiring on the sort of intake form or what have you, just say, hey, check out before you book, check out our 5-star or whatever reviews. Like put that, you know what I mean? Just it's almost like you're conditioning them to check out what other people are saying about you.
Right.
And then the third thing, so that was like brand yourself as like a family run business and the area that you serve. 2 is to market your reviews. Like you got to market your reviews. Like just so people know, like, hey, look, we're not a tire kicker. Like we're not looking for tire kickers. And then the other thing that I would do as well. So if I look at your contact us page, uh I would make the phone number mandatory, required.
Okay.
And then I would add a question that says, when are you looking to get this done? Less than a week, a month from now, 2 months, and then you can like prioritize. That's literally the simple thing that you can do is to do those 3 things. Cause like if you can just know where people stand, because like I do this myself, right? You can tell if somebody can afford you just by asking a couple questions.
Sure.
Right? How bad do you want this done? Or is this going to come down right now in your house and crash into like break your car? Like, you know what I mean? Like, how bad do you want this done? That's what you should ask, right? And what's the time frame, right? So yeah, those are the 3 things that I would do. And I would like in your ongoing marketing, I would like continue to market your reviews and like have pictures of you and your brother and your father out there, like, you know, in front of trees, in front of your customers. Like when you take down pictures, take down trees, like have selfies with your customers.
Right.
Just so people feel like, oh, I'm part of this. I'm part of Tall Pines, right? Like, you know what I mean? And then probably the last thing is doing mailers. So because you're serving a certain area, like do a mailer and just mail everybody just to introduce, and then take them to have them take them to your landing page, so web page, so that you can sort of offer them like a consultation. Because then listen, you may be able to save time by doing a Zoom call or FaceTime, and not have to go out.
Especially when diesel's $6 a gallon.
I mean, I don't know how anybody's like, I would hop on FaceTime or Zoom or whatever, or, you know, Google Meet, and have people turn their phone and just say, hey, just, you know what I mean? Like, just do whatever it takes, because people, I think the number one thing, you know, is that when it comes to customers, everybody wants to know if you could solve their problem and how much you cost.
Sure.
And then once you can solve their problem and you can do it in a way that is the most pain-free, and you remove that pain, price becomes irrelevant, especially if you could do it and make them feel good at the same time. You know what I mean? So the way that you could get out of racing to the price to the bottom is by having a better, bigger brand than anybody else in your area. Literally, I tell people this all the time. Like, you're not in the lumber business, you're not in the tree business, you're in the audience building business. That's the business you are in. Your business is to make you, your brother, and your father, and Tall Pine and Lanier lumber the most popular in North Central Florida. The most popular business, period.
Right.
So if you go in with that mindset, like, you could already start thinking about how to do that, right?
Sure, absolutely.
You start sponsoring teams. You start having bumper, stickers on your cars, vinyl stickers on your cars. You start talking about everybody you meet. You start passing out your business cards. You start doing mailers. You start onslaughting everybody in your area.
Right.
The people become so overwhelmed with you. I'm like, gosh, I have to work with these people.
Right. We're on the right path then, because we've been doing a lot of what you just named. The mailers is the one thing that I think would make a big difference. Also, get the word out without it relying on us being the one to hand you the pamphlet and spread the word ourselves.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you can target.
Well, there's only so many today.
I would figure out how to partner with some real estate people too, just because like they always know who the new, again, I moved into a new house. I was like, I needed a tree cut down. Like
right.
it's just like a thing, right? Like new homeowners. So is that helpful?
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Cool, man. So how can people get in touch? What's your Instagram websites for your businesses?
So on Instagram, Lanier Lumber Co. for the lumber company, and then Tall Pine Outfitters for the tree service. And
awesome.
Same names on Facebook, all across the board on all the socials.
Awesome. Miles, thank you so much for sharing your story. I'm so glad that we connected.
Steve, thanks for having us. I appreciate it.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Thanks so much for listening to the Woodpreneur Podcast, the #1 podcast for the business and marketing side of the lumber, woodworking, hardwood flooring, and sawmill industry. If you like what you heard, please give us a 5-star rating and review. You can also tap into our community by visiting woodpreneurlife.com. Once again, that's woodpreneurlife.com.